Hello, the Debian 13, that's codenamed Trixie, was released last Saturday. By the time I'm planning to publish this video, it would have been a week already from that. Here I have a live USB of GNOME edition of Debian. I figured this would be like the default desktop. So let's take a look. First off, on GNOME and KDE, you do get the default tour menu of the respective desktops. You can use 3-finger swipes for to switch workspaces. It is using GNOME 48 now. This is currently the latest GNOME version. It is now on the newer Wayland graphics by default. Linux kernel 6.12.38. Certainly not the latest that we have. Debian as a stable, long-lasting distro. What did you expect other than a long-term support Linux kernel? So 6.12 is currently the latest LTS kernel, but we have had a couple of short-term releases since then. The previous Debian stable release, Debian 12, was 2 years ago, so by that time there have been of course updates to the major desktops, like the whole graphical environment. Debian 12 had GNOME 43, it was a whole 5 releases behind. Here is the official Debian blog announcement of the release, August 9th. After 2 years, 1 month and 30 days of development, the Debian project is proud to present its new stable version 13. I like how they brought out the exact number of days. Almost 2 years and 2 months, exactly, off by just 1 day. It does come with GNOME 48, but you also do get KDE Plasma 6.3. The LTS Ubuntu is still not on KDE Plasma 6. You're gonna have to wait until April 2026. So congrats to Debian users, you already get Plasma 6. And there's also XFCE 420, so nice, I guess. Coming from GNOME 43, what is new here? For example, the quick settings has been revamped once again. The pill-shaped buttons are now wider to include 2 lines of the status. You can expand like that. Keyboard backlight brightness you can change from here. The activities button on the top left has been replaced with a workspaces indicator. You can see the amount of workspaces and which one you're currently on, and you can scroll on that to switch between them. Application style has also been changed. You may notice for native GNOME apps there is no real separate top bar. It's been kind of blended together with the app contents. You get just the sidebar and the app contents separated like that, which I think looks pretty nice. In the appearance settings, you can now change the accent color. This was in GNOME 47. And now a brand new feature in GNOME 48 is the well-being tab, where you basically get information on your computer usage. You can set like screen time limits and set reminders to basically take a look of the computer screen. I'll quickly take a screenshot, and you can see the notifications have also been reworked. The notifications can also be grouped by the app name. Files improvements, you can write out the address bar like that. Search in folder, search everywhere. Unfortunately, I don't see the root folder listed here, so that's something I have against the recent version. Oh, and one more thing. GNOME and KDE now do have HDR support. I'm on a newer computer now. I do have it. there is fractional scaling. One bug I have noticed, especially on GNOME, the display is like 2560 by 1600, but with fractional scaling, some apps interpret the display as being larger than that. It's like about 3400 in width, which causes some applications to be like really small. That is not as much of an issue on KDE. That handles the fractional scaling better. Debian ships a variety of desktop environments in a pretty default state. Looking at the pre-install apps, you have the main GNOME stuff, LibreOffice, OBS I added myself. The live image comes with some keyboard configuration stuff, like there's a XFCE, some Thai terminal, Japanese keyboard layout setup. Unless you're Asian, you probably won't have that on a freshly installed system when using the main Debian installer. Well, I mentioned the Linux kernel already, and well, some packages aren't gonna be the latest. For Firefox, of course, they are using the extended support release edition 128. Currently, there is like 141, I think. Oh, okay, that terminal looks so old. There is a newer terminal available for GNOME console. I saw that in Fedora. This is probably the new GNOME terminal, leaving that one outdated. Then this is still probably from the GNOME 3 days. So yes, the new GNOME terminal is a separate application now. Look here, much better. And Debian still hasn't transitioned by default to that yet. Python is version 3.13, so which is an update from 3.11, which was in the previous LTS. The package manager apt is also now version 3. Let me just try to install something. And you can see the layout is now improved with color text. Dependencies listed in a grid layout like that. It's definitely more sight readable. Try to install something smaller. You can briefly see the progress bar down there was also like, it used like this full squares instead of the hashes. One difference with app 3 I noticed that let me search for something that has a lot of entries, just like just Linux or something. The search view is different, where you can scroll with arrow keys. There's like the home, end, page up, page down. Personally, I guess I'd prefer the like it was previously. It's like just like it would output everything and then you could scroll through it. But okay, I guess. Debian 13 has like a new wallpaper and its design style. You can see that there's like waves here. Debian wallpapers in general are like not particularly shiny or stand out. There is kind of neutral tone or like teal, this bluish green or emerald. As you can see, if I go and pick some older wallpapers, they're gonna be like that. There's some grey ones in here, nothing that fancy. On GNOME you also do have the GNOME wallpapers pre-installed. So yeah, I'm critiquing a desktop based on the wallpapers. My verdict kind of nothing that fancy. So I think the new wallpaper does look kind of nicer. Regarding the GNOME design, the top bars are this white and maybe a little bit shorter, which I also like when compared with the title bar of the old design, the old terminal. You could clean install Debian 13 with a installer, which also is using now the Debian 13 theme. You could upgrade the Debian 12 to 13 using the package manager. Should go pretty smoothly. Regarding the architectures that you can run it on, there is one new architecture, some RISC-V here. This will be the last edition of Debian to support some armel architecture, and also they are like kind of dropping support for 32-bit system. So on a 64-bit x86 desktops, you can add support for 32-bit packages. You might need it for Steam and Wine, but there is no like kernels or the base system for 32-bit anymore, meaning you cannot install the Debian on a 32-bit computer anymore. So 32-bit computers are kind of obsolete by now. I can definitely see that happening, and other systems are gonna follow suit. Debian on 32-bit just not gonna work. Same with like Windows 11. It does come with GIMP 3, which is a major release, published in I think about the start of this year maybe. So that is nice. For like this the stability of Debian, some applications are already not the latest either. KDE Live, it comes with a version from the end of last year. There is already version 25.04, and also Flatpak is not pre-installed in Debian. You're gonna have to add that yourself. I think Flatpak should come pre-installed actually. I found that on tracker.debian.org you can see and track the versions of packages on different editions of Debian. So I don't know, let's just go Linux. The previous stable edition of Debian had kernel 6.1, this has 6.12, 6.16 is the most recent kernel out there. This does come with a newer kernel, so which means there's better support for newer hardware now. That's great. Debian is regarded as a pretty stable distro. It's used in servers. I remember I was maybe looking at some cloud computing service, and they had the option to use Debian 12 as the backend. These kinds of servers can now probably also upgrade to Debian 13, a more recent base, so that's nice as well. So yes, some software might already not be the most recent. Currently it seems to be like pretty up to date because it was just released like a week ago. The thing is with Debian, when a stable release is well released, it's gonna stay in place just like that. It might get some like critical bug fixes, some security updates, but no like major updates to any of the software. Currently it might seem pretty up to date, but can we say the same thing in a year and a half, 2 years? Given like a year ago Debian 12 already started to seem like out of date to me. You could say just just use Flatpak for recent software. Just use backports for some more recent system software or kernels or what you like. Okay, yeah, that's great. But what about the system base, like the desktop, the entire graphical interface? That's gonna look pretty out of date still, and that's not gonna make a very good impression. My current setup is to use the testing base, which is a development edition of Debian with more recent software, and I also have unstable and experimental repositories turned on should I need them. Experimental, does include the newer short-term Linux kernel. So should you want a newer kernel, you can go for experimental on a testing base. So something I also want to bring up is this software repositories. By default, Debian includes just free and FOSS software. If I would search for Steam, you might want that. It's proprietary software. It's not there by default. You're gonna have to configure the software repositories. The sure way of doing that is to add the contrib in the sources text file. You're gonna have to have root permissions for that, and now it should appear. I remember there was some graphical application to toggle on the different repositories. I can't really find it. So yeah, for desktop usage, you may have to configure the repositories for a bit, and currently the way would be just text file editing or through command line. I remember a specific issue I had on testing ahead of the release. Let's see if that still holds. So sudo apt install and a Minecraft launcher downloaded from the web. Yep. An example of package conflicts that may occur when upgrading and adding like the third-party software. There is a package conflict. It is looking for libgdk pix buff 2.0. Let's go searching for it. It seemingly is here, but as you can see, it is written with a dash here. What it's looking for does not have a dash. As it is written here, it is deprecated, not there anymore. It has been transitioned to this, and the installer doesn't detect that. It just throws an error. That's a pretty specific example of a package conflict that can happen with newer releases. So why Debian is my distro of choice? I find myself pretty comfortable with that base. The Debian base is widely supported, probably because of Ubuntu. You can see when there is a third-party software for Linux, it's likely gonna be available for Debian. There are a lot of helpful packages for Debian, which also make system configuration easier. So like when you do changes to the bootloader, you could just do sudo update grub. So I am just used to the package base that's on Debian and Ubuntu. Well, Ubuntu does its changes. It's like this snap stuff that is there. Vanilla Ubuntu desktop is really not that stable. Debian, from my experience, is actually one of the most performant and compatible Linux distros that's like beginner or intermediate the difficulty. And yes, Debian supports multiple desktop environments. You get to choose between them when installing it, so that's also nice. Debian 13 currently, it seems to be pretty up to date also, but like being the Debian stable release is probably not gonna stay that way. After a year or something, it might get a little out of date for like the recent desktop usage experience. Of course, a couple of applications, the long-term edition is used instead. Debian stable, it is like pretty stable. It's thoroughly tested. You don't have to worry about software getting like big changes all of a sudden. So if that's what you're looking for, then by all means go for it. But yes, that's also why I think I'd prefer the development edition. I'm Median Lane. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, you can perhaps leave a like and subscribe, and bye for now.